Bobcat.
Ignition, blast
Hello,
off.
authors, book lovers, and storytellers. Welcome to another session here in Reader's Magnet's featured author interview. My name is Leah, and I will be your host for today. And with me is one of the Reader's Magnet's featured author. And today, she will be sharing to us what this book is all about, her as an author, and of course, what inspired her to write this book. So, yes, everyone, let's all welcome our one and only Ms. Noel-Anne Brennan, author of the book Tiger Lily. Yes, hi,
Hi,
Miss
guys.
Brennan. It's good to see you. How are you doing
Hi.
today?
Wish we could go
Mhm.
get some coffee together right now. Let's go do that.
Sure, sure. All right. Yes, Miss Brennan. So this is a moment we've been waiting for because, of course, it's now time to know more information about your book, about the Tiger Lily. But before we do that, we wanted to know who Ms. Noel-Anne Brennan is. So maybe a little bit of self-introduction, please.
Okay. And then I need to know a little bit about you too. We got to make this equal here. Okay. What do you want to
Okay.
know about me?
All right. So yeah, you can definitely talk anything about yourself, just to give a little bit of introduction to our viewers who you are as an author.
Okay. Well, I've had a lot of jobs over my lifetime, like
Mm-hmm.
a lot of jobs, cleaning houses for people. That was interesting. I used to do that.
It is.
I used to do factory work, um,
Mm-hmm.
a staple factory, like, yeah, the actual staples. And I used to do, and I used to be a university professor and
Whoa.
used to do, yeah. Well, that was, some parts of that were fun, some parts were not. Like when people kept failing exams, and I'd say, how can you fail an exam when your papers are so good, you know, and you do great in class discussions? You got to
Mm-hmm.
get over this. Don't be so nervous about it. But I mean, I can totally understand that. But people like that, if they really kept bombing exams, they really
Mm-hmm.
tended to do well in other aspects of the course. So they would still come out with an
Mm-hmm.
okay grade, they wouldn't fail. You only fail if you don't do nothing. So,
Right, right.
yeah,
Totally agree on that one's running.
yeah.
Okay, so
So,
I'm talking to a unique woman right now, which is a professor. One's a professor, and at the same time, factory worker. Wow, you've been through a lot. You've been
yeah.
through a lot, and wow, you're here now. Congratulations, Miss Brandon. All right, so yes, moving forward to your book, Tiger Lily. So yes, Miss Brandon, will you tell us what the book is all about?
Yeah, it's about shape changing.
Whoa,
One,
interesting.
yeah, yeah. Well, one thing I discovered when I was teaching is that there are legends from all around the world, different countries, different places, about certain people who could turn into other kinds of animals. And I found this all over the place. I mean, Africa, Asia, North and South America, Europe,
Mhm.
and we still have it today. Werewolves,
Wow.
woo,
Right, right. Uh-huh.
And
Interesting,
so
interesting.
I wondered what could make this work if this were to happen today for real. Why would it happen? How would it happen? And I figured, well, you'd have to have the genetics for it to begin with, to
Mhm.
change shape. But what would actually trigger it? And I wrote the book back when COVID was a big thing, new and a big thing. And I thought, well, what would trigger something like that? If you have the DNA for it, what would trigger it? A virus, so so I went with that. And how would it work, if
Mhm.
it were something that really happened in a modern society, how would that work? So I set it in the US because I'm kind of familiar with that culture and that place. So
Right.
yeah. And so, I just went from there, and what would happen and how would it work, and how do people react if someone changes shape? I mean, if it
Mhm.
happens right in front of you, I wondered, like, if all of a sudden I change shape right now, would my clothes all rip up? Really? You know, I don't want to lose my shirt, you know.
Mm-hmm. Right, right.
I could probably remember in time to kick my shoes off, but
Mm-hmm.
can you control this at all? Does it just happen? How does this go? And which animals and why? And, so I looked around at, and the thing that occurred to me, because I really like cats and I'm into big cat conservation, I answer questionnaires and give them money sometimes and stuff like that. But
Mm-hmm.
thought, well, why not make it a tiger? Because I was studying tiger habitat and what tigers like to
Uh-huh.
do and how their society works and all that kind of thing. So I thought, okay,
Exactly.
somebody can
Born
change
wild and
into a
strong, right?
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
just change into a tiger, do your thing, then change back into a human and say hello, and then you throw up a big hairball on the carpet,
Right. And you know what, Miss Brandon, it's actually interesting you're talking about, shape shifting or shapeshifter,
Yeah.
because right now, I mean, the way I understand shape shifting at this very moment, it's actually, a strength of someone who can really change either through form or let's say identity, which is very common, the identity. But does do you really believe that this thing, I mean, these meats are, let's say, is it really real? Because you also mentioned earlier that it's happening, still happening right now, that there are really shapeshifters out there.
Well, people believe that this can happen, and some
Mm-hmm.
people would like them to think that they can do it, but I doubt that anybody ever really changes into another animal. You could pick up some of their habits. So if I suddenly became
Oh,
a tiger
yes, yes.
and I was unhappy,
Mm-hmm.
"Arr," you know,
Right, right. So that's a shapeshifter.
or
Uh-huh.
oops, I've got an itch on my arm.
Exactly. Just like
That kind
cat.
of stuff. Yeah. Meow. Yeah. Oh,
Right, right.
actually, one thing I discovered is that domestic cats and tigers share something like it's either 95.8 or 98.5% of their DNA is identical.
Mm-hmm.
So
Right.
I have small tigers. Well, I can see one small tiger here. He's sleeping on a chair. I don't want to wake him up. He is orange and he is striped and he tells me he's a tiger all the time. And
Mm-hmm.
he wanted to eat me at one point and he went to take a bite out of my arm and I said, "Go ahead, eat me. You'll get a good dinner out of it. But after that,
Mm-hmm.
who's going to feed you?" And he looked at
Exactly.
me and he was like, "Oops."
Oops, no. Then I'm not gonna do it if that's
Yeah.
the case.
And besides, human, I don't want to lose you. I love you.
Right, right.
You
Yeah,
know?
and you know what? That's actually interesting, Ms. Brandon. You mentioned earlier that someone could really, adapt the traits of being an animal. So it's actually the stories about,
Yeah.
humans who can really shift into animals' form or vice versa. It can go back there
Yeah.
long.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's pretty much just like Marvel's entire universe. you know, Shapeshifters. And you know what? This is so interesting, Ms. Brandon. May I know if when was the first time that you really have where was the idea coming from, like when did you start jotting down notes that hey I wanted to create something like this?
Well,
Yeah,
I
can you
don't
tell us
know.
more about that?
I like
Mm-hmm.
big cats. I like small cats too, but I was studying
So you're
cats
really into animals.
and
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Yeah, I like a lot of different animals and I was and I started reading back about some of these legends and
Mm-hmm.
one thing that interested me is that these legends are all over the world, not necessarily about tigers. It depends on what you have in your environment, but
Mm-hmm.
people could shapeshift into wolves, like
Mm-hmm.
werewolves.
Right.
Ow, and I am not a werewolf, but
Yes,
they
yes.
could shapeshift into whatever and then go back to human eventually. And I thought, well, what would make that work
Mm-hmm.
these days? Obviously you'd have to have it in your DNA somewhere, that you were able
Right.
to do that.
you know
But what would trigger it? And
mm-hmm.
I figured I wrote the book back when COVID was a thing, and
Mm.
so I thought a virus would trigger it. You've got the
Mm-hmm.
DNA, and then you get the virus, and you know.
Right. You know what? I just remember a movie like the Sweet Tooth. I'm not sure if you've seen that movie, Sweet Tooth, where it's actually a
Mhm.
fantasy dystopian series, which is also based in comics. That is, it's actually a story of a young boy. It's actually a half boy deer hybrid, you know.
Oh, okay.
Yes, yeah. So
Oh
it's
dear.
kind of, yeah. It's actually, oh dear, really, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's actually kind of like that. And you know what? It's very, people just doesn't know about how powerful can shape shifting be. You know, it's actually a strength, right? You know, some users effectively become, let's say, resistant to most types of damage. We might not know because it's they have different, skills, different
Yeah.
brains.
Yeah. And
Right.
they're also subject to different threats and dangers,
Exactly. Right.
you
Some
know.
can transform on,
Yeah.
let's say the reflex, allowing for
Yeah.
constantly what to shifting playing fields in battle. Right.
Or you're out taking a walk in the woods and you happen to be in turkey form because that's what you can shift into. And all of a
Hmm.
sudden, there's somebody in front of you with a rifle who says, "Ooh, Thanksgiving dinner." And if they shoot you and kill you, do they get a turkey or do they end up with a human and think, "What? I'm not going to be a cannibal." know,
Right.
what do they get?
Right. And you know what, Brandon? I've actually checked your book online as well. And hey, wow, congratulations, because you've been getting a lot of positive reviews, good feedback coming from your readers. Now, can you tell me, is there any key challenges that you have experienced while creating this book, especially when you do, some research? Are
Yeah.
there any key challenges?
The challenges sometimes are you just don't feel like working. So, you tell yourself, I have to write so many pages or so many
Uh
words
huh.
today. And then after you do like a third of that, you're like, really? Yes,
Mm-hmm.
really. Get back to work. Bleh.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Right, just let it flow, enjoy the journey. And yeah, talking about that, is there any surprising moments that that you discovered while writing this book? How was your whole journey?
Well, um, actually, the part that I really did not look forward to, but it turned out to not be too bad, was proofreading.
Hmm.
After I got the manuscript done,
Okay.
it's like, okay, stupid, go read the thing and see where you messed up. And I found some typos. I mean, of course, who doesn't,
Right, because it's your own
but
idea.
yeah,
Uh-huh.
but I had to go do that, and I always make myself
Hmm.
do that when I write
Hmm.
something. So even if it was just an article for an academic magazine or something, you have to make sure everything's right there. And I would do that
Right.
with fiction as well. And I'd be like, really? I just wrote the thing. Now I have to read it, you
Hmm.
know? But it's helpful because you can pick up on stuff where you screwed up, and then you can fix it. Okay,
Right, right.
or try.
Uh-huh. Yes, and also, Miss Brennan, we already have viewers here. So, what was let's say, could you describe or are there any favorite parts that you like in your book? Like, or could you describe the main themes, or let's say messages readers can expect from your book?
Well, actually, I think the message, which I don't know that I made very clearly in the book, is that we really are related to other animals. We are quite
Mm-hmm.
closely related, and we should treat them fairly and not just
Right.
assume, oh, okay, there's a something or other. I'm going to shoot it because I have a gun and I'm going to see how good my aim is. You want to see how good your aim is? Go to
Mm-hmm.
a target practice place. I did that once. My
Mm-hmm.
late husband collected some handguns and rifles, and he wanted to go target shooting. And there's a place nearby where I could go. We could go do that. So we
Mm-hmm.
went to do that, and I used the pistol. I didn't want to use the rifle, and there were like paper targets, and so I shot a few up, and it was boring. And I saw a sign that said nature trail, and I thought that
Mm-hmm.
is much more interesting. So I put the gun away and went to go for a walk on the nature trail. And apparently, I had an audience that I hadn't realized because people started yelling at me, "Don't stop! You're doing so well. That's really good. Do some more." And I looked at the targets, and yeah, I hit the center of the target or really close to it just about all the time. And I thought, well,
Mm-hmm.
it's nice to know I can do that, but I'm not planning on shooting anybody. So I went for a walk
Right.
in the woods and I was hoping to see some wildlife, and I did. I saw squirrels.
Mm-hmm.
know, because supposedly there were deer and there were bobcats and there were all sorts of interesting things in the woods. And I get to see
Mm-hmm.
squirrels. Okay, I mean, squirrels are nice. I like them, but I see them all the time. I was hoping for something a little rarer, you know?
Mm-hmm. Right. And you know what, Ms. Brandon, I really like how you mentioned earlier that this is somehow, I mean, your book is really advocating for a specific cause and agenda, especially, why do we need to respect animals? Animals, yes, animals have a right to life too, right? Even if the sole
Yeah,
purpose of an animal is just to what? Provide us food, food for human, they still deserve to have a full life where they have
yeah,
where they have the, let's say, the freedom to participate in their
yeah,
natural activities. Yes. Furthermore, they have
yeah,
the right to a human, death as well. I mean, this is something that we also have to, tell to people,
yeah,
encourage. Why is it the care and respect for animals are very important? Is very important.
yeah.
Providing them at least the basic needs like food, water and shelter. That could really help a
Or,
lot.
yeah, or
Hmm.
leave their environment
Just
alone
like what you
because
did with your
otherwise, yeah.
two cats, right?
You
Hmm.
otherwise, if you don't leave their environment alone, you could destroy a lot of species, and we could be next on the list. And we
Hmm.
probably will be. Let's stop wrecking environments and destroying all these habitats for other animals. Let them
Hmm.
do what they do. You know,
Hmm.
and
Right,
just
right. Respect
yeah,
animals.
yeah.
Hmm.
Respect the wildlife. Don't just go shooting it because it's wild and it's there. I mean, like what?
Exactly. Uh-huh. Right, right. Yes, and of course, Ms. Brandon, before we end this session, is there any message that you'd like to tell to our viewers? Hmm. Or let's
Um,
say for our aspiring writers out there, what advice would you give them as they embark on their, writing journey?
do it. It's a job. You're not going to feel like doing it every day. Give yourself a certain amount that you have to write every day. Try to come up with a plot if you're doing fiction, and have all your details and everything else. If it's nonfiction, make sure you're
Hmm.
accurate and you have all
Hmm.
that. And you do a certain amount every day, and that's the way it gets done. Because otherwise, well, I don't feel like doing it today. Well, today I'm only going to write 2 pages, not 10. It takes a lot longer to get it done, and it's better to
Hmm.
just do it, make yourself do it. And then the really hard part, you have to go reread it and fix anything you messed up. And the
That's
proofreading,
correct.
it's always the bleh part, but yeah, I really recommend that
You
you do
gotta
it.
do it.
Yeah, you
Uh-huh.
got to go back and check it.
Part of the process, right?
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, Ms. Brandon. And wow, we really
Well, thank
appreciate you
you.
for, choosing Reader's Magnet to be part of this journey. And wow, it's such an honor to also work with you. And yes, for our viewers out there, you may also check Ms. Noel Brandon's book, and that's available in Amazon.com and also Barnes and Noble. So definitely it will be another chance for you to know more information about the book. And of course, Ms. Noel Brandon, who she is as an author. Thank you so much. And of course, Ms. Brandon, again, we really love you. Thank you so much on behalf of
Thank
Reader's
you.
Magnet.
Thank you. Thank you
Right.
very much.
Yes. Thank you so
Yeah.
much, Ms. Brandon. And yes, as we say it here in Reader's Magnet, we share your story with the world. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.